Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om. Om Shanti 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 Om. Namaste. Welcome. We are back with our Panchadasi. We are looking into the 5 elements and the sense organs, the karma, dharma field, in which experience takes place between the elements and the organs that capture experience and know the elements. Of course, the sense organs are inert. They require something else to make sense of those inputs, of those sense perception, those the stimulus. So all elements have property. The properties are the objects of the sense organ. So every one element has some properties. The denser the element, more property it has. Because the properties of the subtle one gets built into the denser element, and then even denser, and it keeps taking the properties of the previous subtle aspects of creation. And then the denser the element, the more properties it contains. And then we look into the notion that is not a notion, but it's a reason that in fact we do not see the objects, we see the properties. I mean, when we look with our eyes, we see the form and the color of the object. And likewise, we're going to capture different aspects, which are the properties of different things, So some other things we're going to see, we're going to smell, we're going to hear something. So everything we see are the properties of different elements which are contained in the configuration of every object of creation. So no sense organ perceives the substance an existing object. So we looked into that the sense organ cannot really perceive things on its own. What the sense organs can do is to perceive the properties of certain things. And then certain objects contain more than one properties, because of the mixture of the different elements and the dominance of those elements and so on. So we can capture only those properties. When it says like no sense organ perceives the substance, it means to say that the substance, the real thing which is in there, I mean, the substance we could see in 2 ways. One is like the real substantial nature, and the other one is the function, the final function of an object. For example, we have a chair. We have a wooden chair. So when we look into a chair, we see what? We see the shape. We see the color, we see the shape, and then we can go there, we can touch the surface, we can get a feel of the texture of the chair. But somehow there is something other than the 5 senses that can experience the object. So that which can experience the object are not the 5 senses, but it's something much more intelligent, because it is the reflection of consciousness. So the mind of the individual jiva is the one who is going to integrate the aspects, the different properties of a certain object, and going to integrate it, and then it's going to infer that this is a chair. Okay, so it is a chair by conscience. It is already knowledge which is properly stored in the collective mind, and then we see it's a chair. But the sense organs can only capture what? The properties. And then the mind can even see the substance, in the sense that can see what is the real substance of a chair. Oh, the real substance of a chair is wood. The mind can come out and say, no, the mind is intelligent to see, but the sense organs cannot see that is wood. And then more fundamentally, so the mind cannot really see the real substantial nature of the chair, because the real substantial nature of the chair is not wood. because all is but consciousness. And then we cannot see the substantial nature of anything except by the means of the Vedanta Pramana. The Vedantic Pramana is the only means of knowledge that allows us to see the real substance, the real essence nature of everything. Okay, so there are two meanings, those analyses there of between the functions of the sense organs, what it can capture, and then what the mind is a pramana. The mind is a sixth sense. Some of our texts present the mind as the sixth sense or the third eye, that which can see things that the sense organs cannot, because the sense organ just going to capture input or stimulus. The mind is going to make sense of it, is going to integrate it. It's like a sixth sense. So the mind can see even that the chair is made out of wood, for example. It can infer the name and the properties and then put together those stimulus and then say it is a chair, okay? But there is something that the mind cannot do. The mind cannot really perceive the substantial nature of any object without another pramana, which is the scriptural knowledge, which was revealed. We know that Vedanta is a pramana, it's a means of knowledge. We have five channels, five means to get knowledge through the five senses. And then we have the mind as the sixth sense, with the one who really makes sense of those inputs, you know. And then we have a pramana as the only means of knowledge to really understand the substantial, essential nature of everything. And then there is another passage here that says that how do we know that we have sense organs? So you can never see the sense organs, only see the sense instruments. So we see the sense instrument, the sense instruments that they are external, they are in the physical body. We can't see really our nose, but we have a sense instrument here for what? For smell. So we can't really see our nose, but generally speaking, we can see our physical body. We can objectify the five instruments of perception, but we will never be able to see the sense organs the same way we can never really see the mind, although the mind can be seen as a process of thoughts, and the sense organs, they seem to be a little bit more subtle in the sense that we can only know by inference, you understand? I know that I'm capturing things here, I'm getting certain understanding about the properties of the object. I know that my nose, cannot be it, because this one cannot produce the knowledge of different nuance of smell. There is something that must be placed in the mind, the same way what I hear, because this is just a physical matter, inert matter. So this one cannot can hear anything, This one cannot hear beautiful music. And there is something that allows, and then we have those passages in the Upanishads that talk about the mind behind the mind, the ear behind the ear, the nose behind the nose, and so on. So that is placed in the subtle body, and which the subtle body, the organs of knowledge, they are inert. Although it seems to be unbelievable, because after all, the only conscious principle is consciousness itself. Everything below the line of Maya, as we know, is inert energy / matter. So the subtle body is subtle matter, but yet it is matter. And then we have another concept that says that one sense organ cannot produce five independent experiences. For example, a blind person can smell, taste, touch, and hear, but cannot see. So the world is known by the sense organ, but the sense organs are not known by the world. So the sense organs are subtler than the physical material world. But the point here is that one sense organ cannot produce five independent experience, meaning to say, so at each one of these sense organs, they only can capture their respective properties because each one of them is directed towards one kind of objects, okay? The objects of sound, the objects of taste, the objects of smell. So all of those, can be captured only by their specific, relative or respective sense organs. So the sense organs can only capture their respective objects, or properties, okay, relate to objects. And then there is another notion there, which is the world is known by the sense organs, but the sense organs are not known by the world. Of course, the world is inert. Although the world is inert and the sense organs are inert, the sense organs appear to be sentient. Why? Because consciousness borrows sentience to the mind passes on sentience to the sense organs, and then the sense organs appear to be what? A sentient principle, okay? It feels like, okay, now the sense organs is the real thing, but no, it's getting sentience or consciousness from consciousness that borrows to the mind, which borrows to the sense organs, and then the sense organs can see the world, but the world does not reflect consciousness. It's not as subtle as the sense organs, the mind, the ego, and the intellect. So those are properties, those are functions of the subtle body, and they shine with consciousness because it's a great reflector, and then they appear to have their own sentience, which actually has to go back all the way to consciousness. Although the sense organs are inert energy, subtle matter, they can perceive the world of inert objects out there, but not otherwise. But at certain times, the sense organs perceive within the body because the body is not separated from the five elements. And then there is another point made here, is that at certain time, the sense organ, the same sense organ that we have, can perceive some things going on inside of the body, not outside of the body. And the reason presented here, it is because what? The physical body, the inside, the organs inside, everything that's inside is part of the five elements. What does that mean? It means that it has their own properties. It's going to make sound. It's going to make certain smells. You understand? And the sense organs are going to capture some of those stimulus or inputs, from within the body. The knowledge of the sense and the objects is the first vital step required to reveal the non-separation of the world and consciousness. Okay, so everything begins from the objects. The building blocks of the universe are the three energies, the three qualities. Out of that, Ishvara brings about the five subtle elements, and then later on, you start to mix them together, messing them up, and then bringing the elements grossified as matter. And as it develops, so the five sense of reception, of capturing those manifestations, those variations in consciousness, those modifications in consciousness, there is modifications in consciousness, and then immediately the knower, because this is the plane of reality, it's the knower and the object of knowledge and knowledge taking place. So the whole thing comes together, and then, but it begins from the three energies and the five elements. And this knowledge of the sense and the object, excuse me just for a moment, let me stop this machine. So, and this knowledge of the sense and the object is the first step required to reveal the non-separation of the world out there and consciousness. Why? Consciousness is one without a second, and then there are some inclusions, some modifications within it, and then it appears splitting between the subject and the object, the knower and the known. That's all happening within consciousness. And then it says here that the understanding of the basic elements and the sense organs is the first step to understand the non-separation between the world and consciousness, because everything can be observed in our day-to-day experience as the elements coming through our sense perception, our sense organs, and sense instrument. And then we are capturing everything, and then we know that it goes all the way down to consciousness. It comes through the sense organ. The mind is going to integrate and going to experience the object, and then the intellect is going to come up with some determinations, and then all of that is taking place within consciousness, and the mind and the intellect, the sense organs, and the world is one single phenomenon that's happening within consciousness. Nothing is happening outside of consciousness. We can observe the non-separation of the world from consciousness, okay? So there are a few little tricks when we say, where is this pen? Now this pen is, we can say it's my hand, and then we can say it's in Brazil, and then we can say that it's in South America, we can say that it's in the planet, it says that it is in our solar system, and then ultimately we can go all the way to say that this pen is in space. And then we have to say, and where is space located? We are looking to the location of object. Where is the space located? This one was located in so many places, and then in space, where is space located? Space is located where? In my mind, okay? It's a conceptual element, a conceptual object, okay? And if it's located in my mind, so what is the difference or distance between my mind and consciousness? So space and everything contained in space is happening in my mind, because nothing happens outside of the mind, which is not apart from consciousness. The mind is what consciousness is when duality takes place. You understand? This is consciousness appearing in duality, in this apparent order reality. And everything that's captured in the mind here is captured in consciousness all the way, all through. So this knowledge is vital for understanding the non-separation of matter and consciousness. It also paints such a detailed picture of Ishvara that once the whole creation has been revealed, the ego will find it impossible to take credit for what it experienced. Beautiful, huh? The beauty, the magnitude, the amazing power of Ishvara, of creating this universe, and then bring about matter and reflect consciousness, developing the equipment that can determine this phenomenal object. And then all of that is structured in such a beautiful, perfect way. And if it was not enough to do it, to have it all physically structured so that, some living creatures are experiencing inert matter here and there, but then it develops even a living creature in which Ishvara has to bring more laws and rules, bringing about those laws about karma, dharma, ethic laws, and psychological laws, all of that, So once we understand all of these, and then it's impossible for the ego, ignore that there is a supreme power behind all of that, just orchestrating, and so the ego has to fall in its humble place as an instrument to gain experience and hopefully wisdom, so that he can acknowledge Ishvara and acknowledge his own nature as the same nature as Ishvara. So, and that takes us to the sense. The sense arises from the properties of the elements. Anything, any question, any consideration, any help? The sense arises from the properties of the elements. The five senses that perceive the five elements hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell. The five senses function through the gross organs, the ear, the skin, the eyes, the tongue, and the nose. The senses are subtle. The presence is inferred from their function. They usually move outwards. So now here we present the five senses. They operate through the physical gross body. It functions all the way through the mind and then the physical body, and it needs to have those ears, the nose, and so on, the tongue, and the eyes. So it functions through the physical apparatus. The senses, these five senses, although functioning through the gross body, they are very, very subtle, but yet they need that piece of equipment to contact the world of properties, so to say, So it goes through the physical body, but the sense are very subtle. And we can't really see the sense as we see the instruments of perception, but we can infer the functions, okay? So they usually move outwards, and we don't see that, but we can infer their presence. And let's see if more logic is going to present to help us here, okay? I have mentioned some already, but sometimes we hear the sounds made by our ingoing and outgoing breaths, for example. And sometimes we hear the buzzing sound when our ears stopped. We feel internal sensations of hot and cold, or the skin inside feeling sensation of hot and cold, and freshness when it's water, and food, water swallowed. We experience internal sounds that are produced by the pranamaya, kosha. So the pranas is going to activate the entire system, okay? It's very dynamic. It's rich with tamoguna. So we're gonna hear some sounds that are produced by the pranamaya system, okay? Which is the physiological system. If your ears are blocked, you can hear internal sounds produced by the movement of the breath, as we know, the heartbeat, produced by the circulatory system, or the stomach grumbling caused by digestive fire. So all these sounds and sensations can be experienced. Even smell can be experienced. Sometimes we eat something that does not go down very well, and then we have those smells coming from inside as well. Internal touch causes the feeling of softness. Cake. So we eat a chocolate cake, very soft, very creamy. So it feels really soft in our skin inside. So hardness when we eat something hard, Steak is hard, but there are some foods that can be more than hard, can be sharp. You can feel, oh my God, it's really scratching my stomach. Sometimes vegetarian food can be very scratching and so cold touch, feel ice, water, and hot. Internal sight illumines darkness when the eyes are closed. Internal sight illumines darkness when the eyes are closed. Help me out. Did you understand it better? I mean, it's not flashing my mind, this passage. Internal sight illumines darkness when the eyes are closed.
For example, dreaming, Arlindo. When you're dreaming, you can see the light in your mind.
Yeah.
Even though, or daydreaming perhaps.
Yeah. Internal sight illumines darkness when the eyes are closed. Yeah, we can have visions. Yeah, understood. The sights, there go vision. Yeah, internal visions illumines darkness when the eyes are closed, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, we can close our eyes and imagine to be in Hawaii and seeing, the beautiful sun and the beach, and we can daydream, as you said. Belching indicates that internal taste is operating and internal smell reveals good or bad breaths. So we can infer things from inside of the body because after all, the body is the 5 elements and they contain the same properties of touch, smell, sound, and colors and so on. So in that sense, we have the eyes, internal sights. Yeah, internal sights can be seen even with the closed eyes in that sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to stay on this passage that says the presence can be inferred from their functions. I want to see if the text here, Swami Paramarthananda Ramji is going to present some more inferential knowledge or reasoning there. When our eyes are closed, we see the absence of light inside. So it's going to unfold slowly. When our eyes are closed, we see the absence of light inside. And in belching, we experience taste and odor. Yeah, it's very interesting. Sometimes when we are burping, we experience not only unpleasant taste, but unpleasant odor. Both properties come from inside. Thus, the sense organs give rise to experience of things within the physical body. No doubt about that. The same sense organs, they are going to give rise. And you know what is interesting? This is already an inferential understanding about the presence of the sense organs. You know, amazing, very simple. Because when we experience the world through the 5 sense instruments, and then whatsoever we experience those different properties, we know that's coming from outside, and then we may get confused and we believe that it's all due to the physical instruments. But we know that the physical instruments, they are just an instrument, you know, but the subtle instrument is the subtle body, which is the sense organs. The sense organs cannot be perceived and objectified directly by us, but can be inferred. And this is a way to infer the presence, because when we experience all those sensations that coming from inside of the body, I mean, we experience some of them, you know, we experience some of them without the help of the tongue, the smell, the ear, because we hear sounds which are really internal. In the case of burping, you're going to experience the taste and the odor. You still experience more or less here, but some of those perceptions, internal perception like sound and so on, you hear them and you experience them not through the sense instruments. Are you following? We experience them through the sense organs. For example, when we see the light, when we visualize light with the eyes are closed, you know, or when we hear certain things that are happening inside of the body, or when we have the sensation of the texture of something I ate that is hurting my stomach, I'm not using my regular external instruments, you know, there is something more to it. So let's see if they are going to present more good reasonings for us to understand the presence of the subtle body, of the subtle organs, the organs of perception. When our eyes are closed, we see the absence of light inside. And in belching, we experience taste and odor. Thus, the sense organs give rise to experience of things within the physical body. This means the sense organs are in the subtle body, not in the physical body. The instruments are in the physical body. If the organs produce the experience of objects and the subtle body produce the organs, then the objects are caused by the mind. Oh, that sounds good. Let's work a little bit on this one. So the sense organs give rise to the experience of things. We have no doubt by now. The sense instruments, they are instrumental, but the sense organs, the subtle instrument that, that allows us, because it somehow is subtle, it appears as a sentient kind of instrument, which is not the case with the physical instrument outside of the body. So the sense organs give rise to experience of things within the physical body. It gives rise to experience of things outside of the body, as we know, and we know that by inference, and it's more clearly seen that it gives rise to those experiences within the physical body, where this eye is not, the ear is not, and so on, but still we can capture stimulus there or some phenomenon happening there. So this means the organs are in the subtle body, not in the physical body. The instruments are in the physical body. If the organs produce the experience of objects and the subtle body produce the organs, then the objects are caused by the mind. So everything is a chain, okay? So what it's saying here is that the organs produce the experience of the objects, and it does so through the instruments of knowledge, and then we have the organs of knowledge. The organs are going to produce the experience of objects, and the subtle body produces the organs. We know that the organs are the densest aspect of the subtle body. The subtle body has different functions, like the intellect, and then we have the mind, and then we have our memory system, we have our emotional center, we have the ego, and then we have the 5 sense organs, and then we have the 5 physiological systems, the pranas. Everything is in the subtle body. The subtle body brings a formation. It is responsible for developing the organs of perception, okay? So the sense organs, they are produced by the mind. It's caused by the mind, okay? So again, if the organs produce the experience of objects, because the objects without the organs, the object can never produce experience. Are we clear about that? So if we have objects, and then Ishvara says, okay, so it's one-side world, I make the objects, but I don't make any knower of the object. So where is the experience? So for the experience, we need an agent, an experiencing entity. The experience entity is designed in a certain way that requires these 3 bodies, and the subtle body being extremely important, with all its functions, because it shines with consciousness and makes us, human consciousness. So this subtle body, it's what creates the sense organs, creates the pranamaya kosha. It creates everything, okay? The subtle body, it's the mind, the subtle body. So the organs produce the experience of object. The subtle body it's what brings about the organs, the sense organs. Then the objects are caused of the mind. So it means to say, it's again bringing us to the same thing. It appears that the world appears out there, and the mind is in here, and consciousness is somewhere behind here, okay? And then it's saying that the world appears in the mind. And now it's saying that the subtle body is producing everything, including the organs of perception, which is going to capture the properties of the world and then turn that into experience, okay? So it's saying here that ultimately the subtle body or the mind is causing the object. The mind is causing the world of objects, okay? It's a turning things around, okay? Everything is happening in the mind, and the mind is also projecting everything out there, but it's not really in a way that we may imagine that, okay, so I have the power to create the world, and the world is here because I can project and control and so on. No, It's not in that sense, and I think we're going to see it more clearly here. So everything is being caused by the mind, because without the mind to know this phenomenal world, this phenomenal world is not really validated. And moreover, it's the mind that's going to receive this stimulus from the object, and then it's going to interact with all of this, and then it's going to bring into the field, into the Dharma field, a lot of actions that are going to sum up to make up the macrocosmic causal body of the universe, or the macrocosmic body of vasanas. And Ishvara cannot produce, shape this world without the causal body. The vasanas that we keep putting in, you understand, is going to fit the macrocosmic causal body, so that Ishvara can reshape the Dharma field, the physical, the field of experience, again and again. So everything is being caused by the mind, in the sense that there is a relationship between Ishvara and Jiva's mind, in which the mind is co-creator with Ishvara as well. You understand? When we talk about I am a co-creator, it's not that I sit together with God and we on the same level, or, I am God-like. No, I am in my position as a Jiva. I am an agent, an instrument to know, to experience, and I respond to the world, to the karmas, to the prarabdha karma, and I respond. And my response is going to be building and conforming this world. That's why it's so important for us to become wiser. Otherwise, we're never going to have a better world, because what we think, what we say, and what we're going to do is what shape the world. So in that sense, the world, the objects are being produced by the mind, because the mind is co-creator together with Ishvara. Anything about this point? If the organs produce the experience of objects, the subtle body produces the organs, so then the objects are caused by the mind. So the mind is synonymous of the subtle body, okay? If the organs produce the experience of objects, and the subtle body produces the organs, then the objects are caused by the subtle body. That's what it's saying. I'm trying to see if something more comes to my mind, so that I can try to clarify this passage a little more, a little better. I'm trying to remember. I'm waiting for this to flash in my mind. Once I listened to a teaching that touched this subject about the mind being responsible for creating the world, and then I think it was Swami Paramarthananda. It says something that it does so, but not in the meaning, in the sense like the Buddhism presents, And then he goes about present a subtle distinction between different philosophies, that some are going to say that the mind, this world is an illusion, which is projected by the mind, but it's not really like that. This world is an illusion produced by Maya Ishvara. That's why we can never say that we, Jiva, my mind, I can project because I'm creating this world together with Maya Ishvara. No, this is a projection of Maya Ishvara. And the mind has a role to play, because the mind is going to interact with this projection, this creation. And the mind is going to create as well a different order, which is the pratibhasika. Now we have the vyavaharika, which is the creation, projection of Maya Ishvara. And then we have the individual mind create another reality called the pratibhasika satyam, which is the way we see the world. Every one of us see the world in its own way. The way we see the world. So we are somehow we are conforming and shaping the world by the way we see it, because we keep seeing the way we see, and we keep producing vasanas through that mechanism, and these vasanas are going to be shaping the world, because Ishvara knows how to keep reshaping the world, but the way we see impacts the world. In that sense, we somehow we are causing the objects according to our desires and aversions towards them. Just imagine if everybody has a desire for something, and then Ishvara sees, okay, and then they need to experience that, and then they present this object, and then nobody wants to have any experience anymore. And then what Ishvara is going to do with the world? The world is here because we want to experience it. So if tomorrow everybody develops absolute vairagya, nobody has desire for experience anymore. So where from Ishvara is going to produce the objects? You understand? The objects are being, like James says, Ishvara is a facilitator of the system, So if nobody wants to experience the world anymore, okay, so what's going to Ishvara do? There is no world. Everybody said, oh, I'm done with this, and I don't want to come here anymore. And then it's over. So that's why they say that if all of us would become Mahatma and get moksha and get really spiritually elevated to the point that none of us wish to experience this dense realm of experience. So just imagine, what for? It's the same principle. What for the world if nobody is interested to? The agent, the experienced entity is no longer present, you understand? So it makes no sense. Organs of action in the field of karma. The actions of human beings can be classified into 5 main groups: speech, grasping, movement, excretion, and sexual intercourse. So we are looking now into the instruments and organs of actions. Before we saw the instruments of perception and the organs of perception. Now we're seeing the organs of actions and the instruments of actions. So without instruments of actions, again, there is no real experience, because experience, it's 2 sides of the same coin. You receive the stimulus, and then you respond to the stimulus. You receive, and then you respond, and then you are really interacting, and you are really experiencing the world. If you receive and you don't respond, and then you are dead, definitely, literally, no experience. So it can be classified in 5 main: speech, grasping, movement, expression, and sexual intercourse. All other actions fall into one of these categories. Everything is about that: grasping, speeching, moving through the legs, and then pooping, and then reproducing, or making love. The 5 types of actions are performed through the 5 organs of action. The mouth has the ability to speak and to taste. So it's going to taste. This is, but the taste aspect of the mouth, it's more an organ of reception. So when we taste, we are not really acting, we are receiving the stimulus of food, of taste, of something we put in our mouths. But when we really act, we act through the mouth, we speak. So the hands, they are going to hold, grasp. Without the hand, it's very, very hard to live in this world. The feet is going to allow us movement. And the anus, excretion, and the genitals, procreation. The organs are inferred by observing actions. You cannot act without a cause. The organs are hidden in the instruments. So that's very simple law. The organs are inferred by observing the actions. What it means to say, I cannot do any action without a cause, okay? There is something behind my action, and we could say I need to be moved to do something. The mind has to be there, otherwise my legs do not move. Not to say that, you know, my organs of action has to be in good shape, because a lot of the time people, they have certain illness that they go to the doctors, and the doctors keep looking and examining their organs, and then they say there is nothing wrong with the organs. It makes no sense. You should be able to walk, you know, but physically speaking, they can find really a problem with the legs and so on. And then they don't really know that there is a subtle body in which the organs of actions are placed, okay? But we can infer that although a lot of the times, you know, everything is good on the physical level, there is something on the organs level. Of course, if something like that happens in the new scientific community, they immediately say, no, your leg is good, but there is something in your neurons, you know, and then they go, no, it's something in the brain that has stopped you from walking. No? But the brain is, again, another instrument that's going to coordinate all these interactions. But there is something behind the brain, which is a physical instrument, and that belongs literally to the subtle body, which is the organs of action. The organs are inferred by observing actions. You cannot act without a cause. The organs are hidden in the instrument. Just imagine if our instruments of action would be really self-contained, and then they would decide to move around, okay? And then you say, no, please, I'm in to sit down and relax. I work the whole day. And then the legs say, no, I'm sorry, I'm very restless and I want to keep going. So no, these instruments of action, they are governed by a higher principle, you understand? So there is a cause for that, and that cause comes from the mind, of course, and the mind is also composed by the organs of action that have to be in good place, because the mind is going to give signals to the legs, go and walk. But the leg is not going to understand it without something in between, which is the organs of action, which is going to activate the legs and make it go and follow the orders of the mind. The mind. The mind is the 11th sense organ. So why 11th? So we have five organs of reception, 5 organs of action, and then we have one organ, which is the mind, which is somehow orchestrating, integrating, and coordinating all of these functions. It rules the 5 knowledge gathering organs, and it rules the 5 action producing organs. How beautiful. The mind is our most important instrument of experience, the most primordial, the most fundamental. So it's so important that we take good care of the mind, okay? Because even if we have good sense organs and good sense instruments, if the mind is kaput, it's not going to be able to coordinate it properly and integrate everything that's coming through those agents, the organs and the instruments of sense. So the mind is very, very important. We need to take great care of it. This mind is situated in the subtle body. So technically speaking, we can say that the mind is situated in the subtle body, okay? But the mind is if we look at the mind as one of the functions of the of the of the of the subtle body, and then we say the mind is situated in the in the subtle body. Okay, so it says that the mind has all these organs. So it means to say that it is the functional mind. The mind that is there is the gateway between the intellect and the world of objects. This mind has those 5 gates of reception, 5 gates of actions, and the mind is kind of a sense organ, but on its own, and it's going to govern, to rule all of those channels of interaction with the world. And it's definitely situated in the subtle body. It's one of the functions. It's the one that feels, gets a sensation of what's going on as it receives the sense perceptions, the inputs, the stimulus coming from these 5 channels. It's going to sense and it's going to feel, have a sensation to it. But before that, it's going to integrate these inputs, in one single experience, and then it's going to have a sensation of feeling about that. And then immediately it's going to produce, depending on the response it is inclined to present, through the organs of action and the instruments of it, it's going to emote, it's going to provide the answer with energy. But before the sense, the organs of action activate the instruments of action, the mind is going to produce enough energy, emoting all of these sensations presented to the intellect. And then the intellect, this for an individual that is properly balanced, with a nice subtle body, geometrically balanced. And then all of that is doing, the mind is doing, and then is present to the intellect. And then the intellect is going to activate the organs of actions, and the organs of actions are going to give the signal to the instruments of the action. And then the instrument of action start running, because there is a fire happening, in my neighborhood, because I live in California or something like that. So it depends. It's situated in the subtle body. This mind depends on the organs, on the sense organs, and depend on the organs of actions to function in relation to the world. And this mind is called an internal organ. So all organs are internal, and the mind is an internal organ, and it's called antakarana, okay, which is the mind, which is a very, very important. I mean, we know that in some texts, the mind and the intellect and the ego, they are all present as a single center, a single organism, because everything fires more or less, simultaneously. And if it would be really an independent function, it would be difficult to tell what is the most important function of the subtle body, whether it is the mind or the intellect, because the intellect without a good mind is lost. If we don't have a good mind to receive the stimulus coming from the field in a wise and balanced way, so that it does not start losing it and going crazy, So it cannot really process all those integrations and sensations and feeling. If the mind is in a bad shape, the intellect is in bad shape. So therefore, it's difficult to say the intellect is the highest. Intellect is the highest because ultimately it is the discriminating power we have in our subtle body that are going to allow us to understand our true nature, to do this subtle discrimination between the real and the apparently real. but the intellect is without the mind, without a good mind, it's just it's in bad shape. So both are extremely important. That's maybe why sometimes it's presented as a one single organism. So shall we go another 5? What does the mind do? And then it says, number 1, it directs traffic. So there are 5 streams of information flow through the perceptive sense. To avoid confusion of conflicting information, the mind opens and closes the sense organs, allowing only one stream of sensation or thought traffic at a time. So now we go into more details of the beauty of this mind. It somehow it's directing traffic. So it cannot get a stimulus coming from the world and then say, okay, so no, I take 2 of those and never mind. I send both of them to the hearing center, okay? So then the hearing center is going to receive something that means nothing to it because it's not equipped to smell, to capture the odors, the perfumes and the smell. So no, it knows how to direct traffic. Every one of these properties are going to be direct to its proper sense organs. It does direct it. And not only it directs properly, not to bring about conflicting information, or jamming it, or bringing things where they are not supposed to go. It opens and closes the sense organs as well, like a traffic light. Close it here, and then open here, like in India. You say, come on, and then open here, and then this one. So it does that because the mind, the sense organs allow only one stream of thought traffic at a time. As we know, we cannot receive many thoughts at the same time by different channels of reception. It is integrating, it's coordinating all this traffic of stimulus coming, each one coming from its proper channel and one at a time, because the mind can never think 2 thoughts at once. We think that nowadays the human being is being stimulated to rush and do so many things at the same time, that since many years or decades, we hear people say, oh no, I can think 2, 3 things at the same time because I multitask. I can do several things at the same time. But it's not what they do actually, and it's very irritating when we are dealing with this customer service from this big corporation, that they are there and they are trying to traffic 10 clients at the same time, and they believe that they are multitasking. But no, they received a little chat from you, and then they stop it, or they say, hey, yes, okay, I'm going to look into it. And then they open another one, and then they deal with 10 customers at the same time, but one at the time. Nobody can really put 2 thoughts together into the mind without creating conflicting information traffic jam. You understand? So it keeps opening and closing all these channels and leaving each one of these stimulants going through each one its proper channel. You understand? Coming from the field through the organs to the mind, and one at a time. It decides which organ will function consciously and which organs will function mechanically. You see, when we decide to hear something, okay, now I'm going to really listen to my wife, which is not always easy. Most of the time it's very difficult. And then I have to, consciously decide that, okay, now I'm all, my ears here for you. But then when I immediately get distracted, my mind is really looking into something outside of a window, and then I start tasting the food, and then I get distracted to my wife, and she gets pissed off. Oh, you never listen to me. So, but leaving joke aside, the mind decides which organs will function consciously, but while that is functioning consciously, the others are functioning on the subconscious level. Such is the intelligence of the mind, okay? It's some of them are going to function mechanically or subconsciously. So we know that we can receive different perceptions consciously one at a time, but we know that we can multitask when we are driving in the highway, and then we are talking on the telephone, and sometimes we are doing other activities like eating a terrible hot dog, and then drinking a Coca-Cola if you live in the United States. And so we can do many things, and our main activity is what? Is not to taste the Coca-Cola or the hot dog. Our main focus is on the street. Sometimes we are such a good drivers that we say, no, I mean, my conscious activity now is to talk on the telephone, and then we keep talking. When we see we went over 20 miles or kilometers, and we say, oh my God, who drove this car? Now in that, so my conscious attention was on the phone, but subconsciously the mind was driving the car. So such is the intelligence of the mind. It decides which organ is going to function consciously, and they will take the others on the subconscious level, mechanically operate. When you are watching television and eating, you keep eating, but you are not aware of how much you are eating because you are totally consciously concentrate on the television. Big problem. It's said that in the United States, people watch more television than anywhere else in the world. I don't know, that was 10, 20 years. The world is changing so fast that nowadays we don't even know how life is in this world. But in the old good days, people used to sit in the couch and watch television and eating popcorn and potato chips and drinking these horrible drinks and so on. And because the attention is in the tube that is hypnotizing everybody, they are there watching the tube. What happened? They are not aware how much they eat. And then one ends up eating 2-3 times more than one really needed because one is no longer hungry, but it's just going in automatic. And then, of course, it becomes a button that even if the television is off, one is looking for something to eat. Okay, so we are over our time. I'm gonna mark it here not to make a mistake. And we begin next week from here. Do we have any considerations, any questions, any help from my friends? We meet again soon, Thursday, for anyone inclined for our Q&A. Otherwise, next Monday, Ishwara willing, of course. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. Love you. See you soon again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.